Good morning, YouTube. It's a magnificent day here in northern Florida. A little bit sunny, but a little bit of clouds, so it'd be a good day to go out and shoot the new 1911. I hope I get to do that. I wanted to show up today and basically troll the AR-15 and the AR platform. I bought an AR-15, my first AR-15, a little under 2 weeks ago, and I've been fooling around with it ever since and researching. I've been doing a lot of researching because I've already had some issues with the gun. I've learned a tremendous amount, so now I feel like I'm an internet expert. You know how that is. You can become an internet expert in about 60 minutes, whether you've ever had any real experience with something or not. So that's me almost. I do have another AR type gun. I've got an AR-10 that I bought about 10 years ago, a little over that. I haven't shot it all that much, so I do know a little bit about the AR platform, but I don't think you get the full experience until you get an AR-15. So I'll tell you a couple of things up front. Number one, I like the gun. This is it behind me, if you can see it. The lighting in here is not great. I do like the gun. There's some good things about it. It's fun to shoot. It's fun to accessorize. People say when you buy an AR-15, you're basically buying a gun Barbie. You buy the accessories to go with it, and you just go to town, optics and furniture and whatever you want. That's fun. I enjoy that. It's fun kind of being part of the AR-15 community. You get to interact with other people. The AR-15 community, I'm sorry to say this, has been built largely because of the problems inherent in the AR-15 design. You know, it's been built largely in response to that. But nonetheless, it's fun. It's a very versatile gun. It's fun. The idea of switching uppers and barrels and shooting different critters with it, that's enjoyable. So I like it. I enjoy it. I like the fact that there's parts everywhere. There's all sorts of things that if your AR-15 has problems, you're not going to have any trouble finding someone to fix it or the right part. So basically, I like the gun. I intend to keep it. But I do not think it's a good design. I don't think it's a good weapon. Not only don't I think it's the best weapon, but I don't think it's a good weapon for self-defense. I think it's a bad choice. And, well, I don't know. Let's just see how this goes. One of the things that occurred to me about this gun is it reminds me of the Porsche 911. And I don't know if you know the story of this automobile, but it began life as the Volkswagen Beetle. Okay? Hitler wanted to show the world that Germans could have cars just like Americans. So he had Ferdinand Porsche come up with the Beetle, which we're all familiar with, and it was this little horrible rear-wheel drive, rear-engine, air-cooled, cramped car with a terrible back seat. But as bad as it was very practical. It worked fine on ice and snow because the weight was over. There was so much weight over the rear wheels. Cheap to produce. It was a huge hit. Maybe the most. I think it's after the Model T. This is the most common car ever produced. I'm not sure. So the Beetle was it was a miserable car if you weren't poor, but if you were poor, it was a great car. Well, they basically took the Beetle and turned it into the 911. And I know Porsche people, their heads are, you know, if they hear that, their heads are going to explode. But it's really true. I mean, they took the same basic design and made it look a little nicer. Not very nice. It was an ugly car, and still is. But nicer looking than the Beetle, except without the charm. Some of these cars, you can actually take a Porsche engine and bolt it into a Volkswagen Beetle. You think that's a coincidence? So, the 911 has had a lot of problems because all the weight is in the rear where it's not supposed to be with a sports car. It's just not supposed to be there. I mean, anyone who argues about that is, I don't know, beyond help. They're twitchy. The rear ends slide out without warning, and it causes a lot of handling problems. And instead of fixing the problem, instead of saying, well, we'll just design a new car like Ferrari does and like Lamborghini does and everyone else, Porsche said, no, it's a very good car. We're just going to stick with it for the next 70 years and trying to make it work. We're going to keep repackaging it. And that's what they've done, and it still has the same problems today. Meanwhile, you know, you can get in a McLaren and drive circles around it because the people at McLaren are open to innovation. Well, I think the AR-15 is kind of similar to that. It's kind of similar to the Porsche Beetle, because it was a problem. It was a design that had a lot of problems from the very outset. And instead of saying, why don't we just use the Mini 14, which is extremely reliable and does the same thing better? Okay, it's not as accurate. Great, it's not as accurate, but military rifles don't have to be that accurate. If you want an accurate rifle, you buy something else, because most of your rifles don't have to be that accurate. So you'll have, for your designated marksman, I guess, I don't know that much about the military, but I know a little bit. I guess for your designated marksman, you'll get a nicer rifle, a more accurate, I shouldn't say nicer rifle than whatever the regular troops carry. And then for your sniper, you get an even more accurate rifle. But everybody else, you know, if they can shoot 4 MOA, that's fantastic. I mean, 30 years ago, 4 MOA was considered great for a deer rifle. So the Ruger is more reliable, and although it's less accurate, it seems to me it would have been a better choice, just because you don't have to worry about it failing. They sent this thing to Vietnam, the M16, I mean, which is sort of the military version of the AR-15, is basically the same thing. And they didn't send cleaning kits with it, and they told our troops who depended on this thing to keep them alive, they said, you don't have to clean it. Don't worry about it. And they changed the powder. Apparently, Mr. Stoner knew that this rifle had problems. And there's very good evidence of that. And one of the things that show that that's obvious is that he said you have to use a certain kind of powder. And the military said, well, no, we can save 50 cents a barrel on this other powder. So they didn't send the right powder, and they didn't tell people to clean it. And of course, it stopped up. And one of the big problems was something called failure to eject, where your casing or even a live round just sticks in the chamber and you can't get it out. And this is a very bad thing, because in order to get it out, well, there's basically 2 ways to get it out that I'm aware of. One is to take a rod and jam it down the barrel, which is an interesting thing to do when you got a live round in there. I don't know how dangerous it is. It seems like it would be hard to make it go off, but I wouldn't want to do it. So you have to jam a rod down there and knock it out. And if that doesn't work, which it won't in certain circumstances, then you have to hook up some kind of press to it and jam it out. And there's a really neat video. There's a great channel called Johnny's Reloading Bench. And he has a video where he has an AR that has a casing stuck in the chamber. It won't come out. Live casing. He had to have somebody manufacture a fitting so he could attach a grease gun to his barrel. And then he pumped it until the grease forced the casing out. And it was in there so tight, it flew into a wall and embedded itself. So if Johnny had been in Vietnam, his ears would have been on some Viet Cong guy's necklace, because he would not have been able to fix that. He wouldn't even have been able to fix it using a rod, because he wouldn't have had a rod. He would have been out in the jungle. So failure to eject is a big deal. I guess what I'm getting at is the platform is not reliable. You say, well, you're talking about Vietnam. Well, Johnny's Reloading Bench, that was probably, what, like last year? This stuff still happens. I bought my rifle back, if you can see it back there. I bought it from a company called Core Rifle Systems, a local company. And they were fantastic. They were wonderful. They were very patient. They helped me set the gun up. Told me a lot of things about it. And zero criticisms of this company. Everybody says their guns are very good and you get a lot more than you pay for and so forth. No objections, no complaints. Go over there now and buy up 5 or 6 rifles. But the guy that sold me the rifle, at one point he got a very serious look on his face. And I hadn't brought this up, but he got a very serious look on his face. And he said, you know, the reason these things, he said, I'm paraphrasing, he said, the reason these things fail, the reason they malfunction is that people don't clean the chambers. And he led me across the room to the place where they had the brushes. And he said, you got to have this special brush to clean your chamber. And you can't do this as easily with an ordinary brush. It's a brush that has a skinny end on it, and then there's a fat part, and you jam it in your chamber and clean it out every so often. So think about this now. Think analytically. This was the manufacturer. This is somebody who really wants this gun to look good, because he can't just turn around and say, well, forget this, buy a Colt or buy a Mini 14. He's got to make you want to buy this gun. He wanted this gun to look good. Even still, he brought up the reliability issue and suggested I buy a $5 part, which was not included, to make his gun do what it was supposed to do. Now that's really, that makes the AR-15 look pretty bad. It really does. You gotta be fair. That's not good. If you buy a gun ordinarily, nobody says you got to use this grease, you got to use this special tool, you got to stand on one foot when you shoot it, you can only shoot it facing north. they say, here's your gun, here's a box of Russian ammo or whatever you're buying, have fun, and you never see them again because your gun shoots virtually every time without fail. And if you don't clean it, it continues to shoot virtually every time without fail. That's normal. So there's still an AR-15 reliability problem. Okay, maybe you can overcome it with special tools and special grease and astrology and yoga and whatever. But if you have to do those things to make the gun work, it's an unreliable gun. You don't have to do those things with reliable guns. I don't know how I can make this any clearer. Think about John Moses Browning, all the guns that he designed, all the wonderful things he designed, the 1911 lever action rifles. He designed the 50 caliber machine gun, this huge list, the BAR, all these wonderful guns, many of which were used by the military. And as far as I know, he never told anybody, this gun works great as long as you have a special brush. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be snotty, but come on. So it's just not that reliable. And for that reason, I would never use one for self-defense. That's why I say not only is it not the best gun for self-defense, I say it's not acceptable. I've only shot this gun maybe 100 times, 120 times, and I've already had it crush one casing for no apparent reason. I've got an AK-47, I got a VZ-58, which is, actually, I think it's VZ-858 or something, but, you know, it's the civilian version of the VZ-58, a Czechoslovakian rifle. It shoots AK ammunition. They just don't fail. They just do not fail. And I know that if I took the AK and I threw it out behind the barn and let it rain on it for a month, that I could pick it up and it would fire immediately. I know that. Everybody knows that. What possible reason could I have for choosing a gun that fails 1% of the time? Would you get in your car if you knew you were going to have a wreck 1% of the time? Would you get on an airplane if you knew they crashed 1% of the time? No. So I'm sorry. I don't accept it. Another weird thing about it, what's with the charging handle? It's got a charging handle that comes right back in your face. So in order to charge this thing while you're using it, you got to sort of do this and, you know, move your head out of the way. I mean, am I wrong? Is there some special magic trick that I don't know? It sure looks like it works that way. It makes me nervous. And I also think, what if it somehow catches on the bolt carrier and just comes straight back into your head? I wonder if that's ever happened to anybody. Maybe I'm just imagining things, but it just seems to me like if it wasn't lubricated correctly or whatever, if you had some kind of little burr on the part, maybe you could have a real problem with that. I don't know, but I don't like it. Other guns have the charging handle on the top or they have it on the side. And now some people make AR-15s with a charging handle on the left side. So if they're doing that, why would they do that if the design from the outset was okay? Why would you want to change something that's perfect? Obviously, people don't like it. The bolt assist. An AR-15 has a little, I don't know what you want to call it, a piston or something on the side of it, and you hit it with your hand when rounds fail to chamber. It knocks the bolt carrier forward. Okay, which, by the way, if your chamber is tight, it seems to me like that's a good recipe for a failure to eject. Am I wrong? Because you're basically, you know, welding your casing in the chamber and hoping it'll come out later. So why would you have a bolt assist if you knew the gun worked correctly? Where is the bolt assist on a Ruger Mini 14? Where is the bolt assist on an AK-47? Where? I mean, go down the list of other military weapons and say, where's the bolt assist? Are there some? Maybe there are some. I don't know. It's not common. Something was wrong. Mr. Stoner, when he designed this weapon, he put that there for a reason. I mean, somebody did. If it wasn't him, the military made him do it. Somebody knew there was a problem. So I'm not too happy about that. That shows somebody wasn't thinking too clearly when they designed the gun. The brass deflector. This is like a wart on the left side of the gun, and when hot casings come out of the chamber, if they come out, they hit this thing and they scratch a hole in your gun's finish, and then they bounce over to the side. Why is that? Why is that there? That's ridiculous to have a thing on the side of your gun that you know is going to be eaten into and destroyed by brass. It's going to screw up your gun and make it ugly as soon as you start shooting. I'm afraid to look at my gun because I didn't think about it. It may have a big gouge in it already. Why would you have a thing like that if your gun ejects properly? I don't have a brass deflector on my 1911. I don't have one on my AK-47. I don't have one on my VZ-58. I don't think I do. Maybe I should go back and look at them. I know the 1911 doesn't have one. I know my 22 rifles don't have one. Isn't there something a little weird going on when you have to do something like that with your gun? If you go to Amazon, you can buy something called a deflector brake or something like that. And basically it's I believe it's made out of rubber. I'm not sure. It's like a little rubber decal that you stick on your brass deflector. And the idea is that instead of eating your gun's finish, your casings eat that little piece of rubber, and then I guess you replace it someday. So, not really happy with the idea of a gun that's made to shoot brass in your face, unless the brass is diverted by damaging the gun's finish. That seems weird to me. And I will say it's neat the way the AR-15 piles the brass up in a small area. I guess that's due to the brass deflector. That's pretty cool. But it seems like evidence that the design was like the Porsche 911. They should have just scrapped it and started over. The wart, the brass deflector, is what I would call a kludge. And this is also true of the bolt assist and the special brush and all that. A kludge is a clumsy repair. Like most of the time when you use duct tape, what you're doing is a kludge. You know, instead of welding something, you go and buy yourself some duct tape and put it together. That's a kludge. Well, it seems to me the brass deflector is a kludge, and the rubber thing, the deflector brake from Amazon, which costs like 13 bucks, it's ridiculous. It ought to cost like 40 cents. It seems to me that's a second order kludge. So when you're into second order kludges, you've really wandered off the path of good engineering. What else? The caliber. I'm just going to call it 2.223, all right? I know it's also 5.56 NATO, basically the same thing. I know it's not really the same thing, but it's basically the same thing. Shut up. I've been reading up on this caliber, and if what I've read is correct, and you never know, I mean, the internet, come on. But what I've read is the Pentagon wanted a caliber that would not kill people. They wanted to wound, let's say, the Viet Cong or the Vietnamese army. They wanted to wound them because if you wound somebody, other people have to take care of him, and those people are taken out of the battle, and it sucks up resources. So overall, it works out well for you. Now, this is a bad system if you're an individual soldier and Charlie, you know, is charging you. If you got 5 or 6 Vietnamese soldiers charging you, you don't want a weapon that wounds. You got to have a weapon that kills very quickly, or else you're dead meat. Your ears are going to be on a necklace. So, but anyway, I mean, I guess maybe it makes sense if you're a mathematician and a strategist and you're trying to figure out the best, easiest, quickest way to win a war, and you're saying to yourself, well, these guys, we know some of them are going to die anyway, so it's okay if a few of them die because they can't kill somebody. Anyway, supposedly this thing was created so that it was more likely to wound than to kill. And if you want to see evidence of that, many states will not allow you to use these calibers, to shoot deer. And deer are about the same size as people. That ought to tell you something. They're roughly the same size. It's underpowered. People call it a poodle shooter caliber. I know supposedly it's better than, let's say, like an AK-47 round at 300 yards because the AK-47 round slows down and all that. But how many shots in war by ordinary soldiers are made at over 300 yards? I mean, am I wrong? Aren't most of them going to be like 100 yards or less, 150 yards? So, not all that impressed by it. You say, well, it has less recoil. Okay, well, if you can't handle an AK-47's recoil, you shouldn't be shooting a gun. It's negligible. You can say, well, it's lighter, you carry more ammunition. Okay, that's great. For a soldier, that's fantastic. That sounds like a huge advantage. You can carry all sorts of magazines. I'm not a soldier. I'm never going to walk up and down the mountains in Afghanistan with 50 magazines. In a home defense situation, I don't plan to use the AR-15. I can't say this enough for self-defense anyway. But if I did, I wouldn't be carrying 50 magazines. I'd be carrying, maybe in my most neurotic moments, I might be carrying 3, and I would use part of 1. So it just doesn't bother me. The idea of carrying 5 pounds of ammunition across my living room is not intimidating. I don't see this as a great caliber, and it's not that accurate. That's another interesting thing about it. You really have to struggle to make an AR-15 chambered in this stuff very accurate. When I say very accurate, I mean 1 minute of angle or less. When you buy these things off the rack, you're going to get, what, like 2.5 at best. So, and you can say, well, you get better ammunition, you can get a better barrel. Okay, the better barrel is a minimum of $250. The better ammunition is expensive. Let me tell you about 204 Ruger. 204 Ruger does everything 223 does better, except at the very upper end, where the 223 will have a little bit more stopping power for larger critters. But you shouldn't be shooting. Apparently, you shouldn't be shooting the 223 at a deer anyway. Anything up to a coyote, the 204 Ruger is fantastic. It shoots flatter. You can get a magnificent, guaranteed 1 minute of angle rifle for about $350 right now off the shelf. The ammunition is like 45 to 50 cents a round. You can buy Fiocchi 204 Ruger VMAX cartridges, and that's what they cost, like 40 to 50 cents a round. And those cheap cartridges will shoot 1 minute of angle. They'll go into one hole over and over. You can actually get a 204 Ruger barrel for an AR-15, and you don't even have to get new magazines. So, for my purposes, I don't understand why I would ever want to shoot the 223, except in what people, well, I'm not going to say what they call it, but they say a certain thing hits the fan. You know, if there's a situation where Antifa has taken over the world and they're jumping over your fence, I guess cheap ammunition is a good thing to have, and if you have boxes and boxes of 5.56 or whatever, that'll help you to last 40 or 50 seconds longer. I guess that's good. But it doesn't make sense to me. I don't see any purpose in buying this stuff. There's a new caliber that just came out, and it's called 6mm ARC, and everybody is just going crazy over this stuff saying how great it is. And I don't know much about it, but they're saying it's more accurate than it competes against things like 6.5 Grendel and other things that have been used to try to rehabilitate the AR-15, to try to make it live up to its potential. And they say it's more accurate. They say it hits much harder than an AR-15 .223 round. You can use it to shoot deer and not feel bad, not feel like you're making animals suffer for no reason. It has much better long distance performance, as does the 204 Ruger. So what I'm thinking is, what I ought to do is just get rid of my .223 barrel and just consider it an investment in knowledge, and get myself a 204 barrel upper, and maybe get a 6mm ARC barrel upper, and then I'll be set, because all the things that I want to do with the 223, I'll be able to do with the 204 better and cheaper at longer distances. And if I want to do things that the 223 can't do, like shooting a larger animal, then I've got the 6mm ARC, and it's more accurate, it's more powerful. Why wouldn't I want that? It doesn't weigh that much more. I mean, sure, you lose some ammunition capacity, but not important unless you're in a self-defense situation. Even then, 25 rounds ought to do the job. If it won't, surely a magazine change will get it over with. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm just, a guy who's trying to figure out the right thing to do. So I'm not really impressed by the whole 223 thing. The 7.62 by 39 millimeter round appears to be better at realistic distances. You're never going to shoot somebody for self-defense at 300 yards. Forget it. It's never going to happen. You can fantasize about it. You can put on your camo pants. You can put on your "Don't Tread Me" t-shirt. Tread on me. Don't tread on me t-shirt. It's not going to happen. You shoot somebody at 300 yards, you're going to the penitentiary. Very hard to explain to a jury why you thought somebody 300 yards away posed an imminent threat to your safety. So, I like the gun. I enjoy it. It's fun. I'll probably keep it because it's a great toy. It's a wonderful toy. I can't think of a better toy than an AR-15 for somebody who shoots. I mean, without spending, $20,000 on full automatic. But I think people who think this is a good self-defense rifle, or even a really well thought out recreational rifle, I think they're on crack. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I'm actually thinking maybe someday I might get a Mini 14 and get one that's chambered for AK-47 ammunition. That might be fun, but I don't know. Why should I do that? Because I've already got an AK-47. What will a Mini 14 do except being American that an AK-47 won't do? Hard to think of anything. So I have trolled. I have trolled long and I have trolled hard. And I know that I will infuriate everyone who loves America's rifle. I guess horrible comments will, if anyone watches this post, I guess evil comments will rain down on my head. Much like casings from an AR-15 that doesn't have a brass deflector. Oh man. Well, that's all I got. I'm going to see if I can get my 1911 to work. I really hope it works out. I just got a nice new shoulder holster for it, and I wanted to upgrade to a really nice 1911 without spending too much. I didn't want to go to a Wilson Combat or a Les Baer. First of all, I really have a feeling that they're not really. I have a feeling that a $3,000 1911 is really not more accurate than a $1,400 1911. I have a feeling you kind of max out at that level, but we'll see. So enjoy your Sunday and enjoy your flaming. I'm out.